Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I'm your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. Nope, this is my trigger warning. Oh, okay. Trigger warning. This story covers material that may be upsetting to some viewers and readers, and this is my disclaimer. The speed of read and concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. All right, today we're looking at a memoir. We're looking at a soul exchange for, they're here as like a visitation, but really we call them No-Ant-5039. They have different little screen names for different places that we work together. Okay, so I think we're looking at chapter 2 again, and we have a comment. So they have put notes in here for me. So I'm going to go here and read this. I noticed in the reading of the first draft of this, there were a few spots you got hung up. You had said maybe it was warming up for the day. You didn't necessarily notice anything wrong, but let's see in this revision if you get tripped up. I might have pairings of words or sentence links that don't go well. Yeah, I can see that. That explains why I trip up sometimes. But honestly, I tend to be bumpy until I hit my rhythm, and usually it's around the second or third paragraph. And part of it is my ADHD, and part of it is just honestly, trying to control this brain of mine and bring it to focus takes me a minute to settle in. Sometimes I feel like I should read something like this. Little musing, this conversation is a great way for me to warm up before I get into the actual read. I think it goes a little bit better trying to get myself to focus. While it is a book in this day and age, I definitely want it to sound pleasing out loud too for audio versions. Okay, so we are looking at the first couple paragraphs. Apparently, I got hung up on them, and let's see if this is better. I am going to pause. I'm going to go address my bunny before I begin this, because we're looking specifically at chapter 1. I want to do a good job, so I'm gonna pull it together here and make sure that I do my part for this test. Hang on, guys. Okay. You guys don't know this, but I just chased my bunny around the house. So now you know. All right, let's see. Chapter 2, Rock Bottom and a Rock Through My Window. P.S. Sky Traveler. Happy hour margaritas evolved into a bottle of Don Julio Resposado, convoluting my memory of the events leading up to scouring the beach. Okay. I'm going to try that one more time. Happy hour margaritas evolved into a bottle of Don Julio Resposado, convoluting my memory of the events leading up to scouring the beach. Okay, so what I think is happening, Don Julio Resposado. I can say this. Here's the thing is, this is a mouthful. And then I go immediately into the word convoluting, which is also a mouthful. So pairing them together may be what is happening to me, okay? Because the sentence sounds beautiful. Happy hour margaritas evolved into a bottle of Don Julio Resposado, convoluting my memory of the events leading up to scouring the beach. Sun rays angled through the gaps between umbrellas, casting dabbled shadows on the patio. Waitstaff maneuvered amongst the maze of tables, balancing trays of thick glass. We must have been on our third basket of chips, our voices rising over one another's in excitement. Your high school friend Clay and his girlfriend Lauren were visiting from Southern California with a reservation at a luxury hotel, a suite with a living room and private hot tub overlooking the valley. They insisted there was plenty of room for us to keep the party going. Prior to checking in, we decided to caravan to the beach to catch a sunset. Spirits high, but coordination faltering, we wove through the crowds to a quiet stretch of fine white sand. I flicked the blanket into the air, spreading it wide as it settled onto the ground. Despite living locally, we didn't make it to the beach often. In fact, Evan, it was a rare day for us to make it beyond your bedroom anymore. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine, not unlike that of the driftwood floating in the waves some 150 yards ahead. Okay, I'm going to pause myself. There's a couple things I want to make. I'm making myself stop and look at a couple of things before I forget them. which I'm kind of already doing because my memory is complete crap. Your high school friend Clay and his girlfriend Lauren were visiting from Southern California with a reservation at a luxury hotel, a suite with a living room and private hot tub overlooking the valley. They insisted there was plenty of room for us to keep the party going. Prior to checking in, we decided to caravan to the beach to catch a sunset. Spirits high but coordination faltering, we wove through the crowds to a quiet stretch of fine white sand. I flicked the blanket into the air, spreading it wide as it settled onto the ground. Despite living locally, we didn't make it to the beach often. In fact, Evan, it was a rare day for us to make it beyond your bedroom anymore. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine, not unlike that of the driftwood floating in the waves. Okay, this sentence. All right, let's look at it. So, our drinking, I'm going to piece this out. I'm not entirely sure this is, how should I say this? I don't think this is like a rule or anything, but sometimes certain words together will just kind of cause you to trip over one another. We're just going to make it really generic, okay? We're not going to look at the study of it or the correctness or the properness. We're just going to look at, hey, if we put these words together, do they roll off the tongue, or are we going to trip over ourselves? And what are some reasons we might? Well, if they have similar sounds, we know that I trip over a lot of them when they have a lot of words when they have similar sounds. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine. So I'm going to observe first for myself, okay? Doesn't mean anything. It might not. We are going to observe something that might contribute to me tripping over the words. First, it's a little bit long. I've written entire paragraph sentences, okay? And when I say that, I mean like I've written a sentence with enough commas to make it this long. I'm not joking. It's out there. I could pull it up and find it in my past, okay? It's there. All the evidence of all the things, it's there and it's still there, and I've not changed it, and I'm very tempted not to change it and just leave it forever to reference as my learning curve, okay? And you can't see me, but I am waving a hand toward the past, all right? So, spirits high. Okay, we're gonna come back down here. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine. Now, where I really start to trip up is here, not unlike that of the driftwood floating in the waves some 150 yards ahead. The word unlike kind of tripped me, I feel like. I feel like it was the culprit here, even though we have 3 ing words in the same sentence, and we have a little bit of a long sentence. We could look for the opportunity to make them 2 sentences, and it could probably be the easiest solution to any sort of reworking if you were to decide to do that. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine, not unlike that of the driftwood. It's not unlike that. Not unlike that. These 3 words are where I trip up every time. I cannot say why. I can just say that that's where it happens every time. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine, not unlike that of the driftwood floating in the waves some 150 yards ahead. So here's the thing. I like the visual. I like what it says. I'm not inclined to suggest any change to it. I am tripping over it. It is a little bit long. It has 3 ing words in it. That doesn't really bother me. I'm observing them, just trying to figure out what could possibly be my problem. Sometimes it's like we said, the pairing of certain words or certain words together. Sometimes when we look at a word where we're tripping and we look around it, that could also indicate it. I felt like when I very first tried to say it, unlike and driftwood, not unlike that of the driftwood, it could be of the as well. The pairing of not unlike that of the. It's these 5 words. That is where I am tripping over this. What to do about it? I'm not going to touch that because you are super skilled. and I don't want to even try to emulate your voice. So, why is it still, did I change the font? I'm just going to click and click and click. Oh, and now I deleted too much. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to put this here. I tripped up here. I believe it is, love my lowercase I there. That's fancy. I tripped up here. I believe it is due to the words not unlike that of the paired, or at least going to spell correctly, together. That is my opinion of that. Here's the thing. Those words are put together like that, kind of lending to your voice, and I get it. It's our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine. Similar to the driftwood floating in the waves some 150 yards ahead. You could just use similar. I think I just swapped out similar and I think it worked just fine. But you may come up with something more eloquent. Just to say that I offered you an option. Okay. Possible swap. Okay. Similar. Oh, similar to the, there you go. I think it read smoother that way. At least I'm able to figure out what exactly it was that was the issue just by kind of examining the sentence. All right, we're gonna try it again. I'm gonna swap it out for the word similar, and we're gonna keep reading. I'm gonna take a little sip of water real quick. Spirits high but coordination faltering, we wove through the crowds to a quiet stretch of fine white sand. I flicked the blanket into the air, spreading it wide as it settled onto the ground. Despite living locally, we didn't make it to the beach often. In fact, Evan, it was a rare day for us to make it beyond your bedroom anymore. Our drinking and my sole income landed us in an isolating routine, similar to that of the driftwood floating in the waves some 150 yards ahead. The sand held in the warmth from the day's sun, and in the distance a thick sheet of fog lingered above the ocean, slowly expanding towards the shore. Somewhere beneath the presentation of yellows and oranges, your back jean pocket betrayed you and my keys disappeared, falling out unnoticed. We all canvassed the area, shaking the blanket and parting arm lengths of sand, this way and that way. A storm of rage churned in my chest, ready to break loose. My desire to appear calm overpowered my desire to yell at you. I didn't want Clay and Lauren to think less of me. With a deep breath, I managed to temper my inner frustration. The inconvenience pausing, I'm stopping. Okay, so a storm of rage turned in my chest, ready to break loose. My desire to appear calm overpowered my desire to yell at you. All right, I want to tell you or ask you to say what you were thinking. I want you to say literally what you were thinking. Even if it's nonsensical. Okay, so I know I had told you guys the first time that I read this that my husband was playing a game of frisbee on the beach, and his ring flew off his hand when he flung the frisbee. Okay. When the ring was missing, I'm going to tell you some of my thoughts that were going through my head, okay? And thoughts turn into emotions. So when we say we have a storm of rage churning in your chest, ready to break loose, I want to know what the thoughts were that accompanied that. And then I'm going to feel that rage, okay? Because you're going to pair the thoughts with this sensation, okay? And then it has more, it's like an amplifier, okay? And I'm seeing an opportunity in this paragraph for you to vocalize what those thoughts were. They don't have to be long. I'm going to try to give some examples that ran through my head when my husband's ring was missing. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. So the ocean has swallowed swallowed. The enormous, huge, endlessly deep Goliath ocean has swallowed my husband's wedding ring. It's gone. It's gone forever. What does this mean? Is this like a sign? Is this a sign of something? I mean, I feel like things are going great between us, but I mean, is this like the universe telling us something? And if it is, what is it trying to tell us? I mean, that I don't even want to think bad things like that. I mean, we're happy. We're happy. This doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It has no meaning. I don't, it can't, it just can't. It's just a thing. It's just a thing that happened. It doesn't, it's not like a sign. Okay. I'm not going to think, see how my thoughts just kind of, those are literally thoughts that went through my head when this happened. And I can even still tell you what they were. I can even still tell you what the thoughts were. And they just kind of collided, and see how they kind of like my brain went out there, and then I tried to reel it back in and reason with myself. When you let the thoughts, when you write them down, accompanying the sensation that's building inside of you, because as you can see, based on what I was saying, you can feel the emotions that kind of went along with it. You can even go on the little roller coaster mind ride of my thoughts going, starting in one place. I'm trying to rationalize. I'm kind of losing it for a second, and then I kind of rationalize myself back down, and I'm trying to make reason of it and trying to encompass what's happening. That's what you need to put in here. And it doesn't have to be as many words as I said. Okay? It doesn't have to be. You could just pick and choose enough to accomplish your goal. When you first do it, copy your paragraph out, stick it over in like another document, like you've seen me do a couple times with sentences, and then just let your thoughts go and type the thoughts as they come into your head without, just kind of like when you write, and don't rationalize them at the moment. Just set yourself back into the scene and start writing everything that popped in your head, okay, when the scene was playing out. What were your thoughts as the scene was playing out? All right. Write those down. Then when you're done, you can go back and look at them, and you can pick and choose which ones are going to be the most effective to get across the sensation, that are going to compare well with the sensation. So I'm going to give you a little note here. Please include your literal thoughts when this was happening. Okay. Video has explanation. Okay. So to try to give you an example, trying to give you something to reference to kind of get you in the mindset to kind of do that. Then once you've got those thoughts, you can kind of pick and choose which ones are most effective. You can tuck them here and there and see what it does for your paragraph. A storm of rage churned in my chest, ready to break loose, which is going to be amplified by an internal thought that justifies this. This is going to solidify the thought, okay? My desire to appear calm overpowered my desire to yell at you. Okay, so you're telling me right now, but you could, your thoughts might do this for you, all right? And here you go. Here's your thought. I didn't want Clay and Lauren to think less of me. There you go. Okay, so I think if I get a little internal thought here to go with this storm of rage, because initially you're frustrated when your keys are missing, right? But then you've got a situation. You've got people around. You're observing that. You've got people in the scene, in the area. You don't want to yell at him. But what are your thoughts towards him? Okay, what were those thoughts? Because those thoughts will help tell us where you were with him. Whatever you were thinking is going to show up. And then all of a sudden this is going to have a deeper meaning, okay? Because that rage, those are your internal thoughts. I can't, until you give me the internal thoughts, I can't tell you what they were. You've got to put yourself there, and you've got to write them out. And then when you have them and you pair them with this sentence, I hope that you see what I'm trying to give you, but I can't give it to you because I don't know it. My desire to appear calm Okay, so you're trying to rationalize with yourself. I'm trying to calm down, overpower your desire to yell. So you're hiding this. You're gonna. It's building up inside you because you're trying not to let it out. Okay, but I need to know what it is. I didn't want Clay and Lauren to think less of me. With a deep breath, I managed to temper my inner frustration. The inconvenience of the situation was delaying our shenanigans, so it was decided by everybody but me we would go to the hotel and deal with my car tomorrow. Sliding in the back of Clay's 4Runner, masking my upset, is about the time my memory of the specifics becomes questionable. Love this. I'm loving it. Okay. We had Sloppy in the living space, and they were behind closed doors, presumably doing the same. She had switched to champagne. The rest of us stuck with the tequila. I had to sit up on the edge of the hot tub, my chest tightening in the heat. Despite the dark, the property had tasteful landscape lighting, illuminating the hillside terraces of lavender bushes. The stars were up, and the energy was winding down. Alcohol stimulated me, invigorating my senses with a synthetic confidence. But it had another powerful effect on me, too. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Your tiredness irritated me, and since no one brought, the fun was coming to an end. A desperation came over me to find my car keys and get my prescription for Klonopin out of a bag on the back seat. If I was expected to go to bed, the sedating effects would help. Convinced this was the only way I would sleep, my priorities returned to my missing car keys. While I don't recall specifics, I remember fighting, and I can only imagine the volatility is a perfectly easy word to say. Why did my brain stop? Okay, try it again. Frustrates me to no end. I'm gonna take a sip of water. I'm gonna start over. Hang on. I'm gonna back up. We're gonna start here again. Alcohol stimulated me, invigorating my senses with a synthetic confidence, but it had another powerful effect on me too. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Your tiredness irritated me, and since no one brought, the fun was coming to an end. A desperation came over me to find my car keys and get my prescription for Klonopin out of a bag in the back seat. If I was expected to go to bed, the sedating effects would help. Convinced this was the only way I would sleep. I'm wondering, do we have... I'm getting an alert and I don't know why. Is there a repetition somewhere that I'm like subconsciously picking up but not picking up? Why is my brain stopping? Alcohol stimulated me, invigorating my senses with a synthetic confidence, but it had another powerful effect on me too. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Your tiredness irritated me, and since no one brought, the fun was coming to an end. A desperation came over me to find my car keys and get my prescription for Klonopin out of a bag in the back seat. If I was expected to go to bed, the sedating effects would help. Convinced this was the only way I would sleep, my priorities returned to my missing car keys. Okay. We may have, I need to pick it apart by highlighting sections that could possibly be areas. I'm just trying to focus myself, and so I'm going to highlight to try to figure out what is going on. Alcohol stimulated me, invigorating my senses with a synthetic confidence. But it had another powerful effect on me too. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Okay. I'm not super keen on the word tiredness. I don't have an explanation for that. It could be a personal preference. My brain is catching on it from the very first time I read the paragraph. It could be hung up on that and not letting it go because I didn't vocalizing it, and then therefore stopping me for the rest of it. It might be something else, but at this moment I'm going to observe that it does not like the word tiredness. I just don't care for the word choice right there. Your exhaustion irritated me. Your fatigue irritated me. I don't know why it doesn't. I don't want the word tiredness. It could be a neurodivergent thing. It could be that the word, I don't know if I've seen the word tiredness, exhaustion, fatigue. I feel like there might be a stronger word that you could use. I have no explanation. I apologize. Alcohol stimulated me, invigorating my senses with a synthetic confidence, but it had another powerful effect on me too. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Your exhaustion irritated me, and since no one brought, the fun was coming to an end. A desperation came over me to find my car keys and get my prescription for Klonopin out of a bag on the back seat. If I was expected to go to bed, the sedating effects would help. Convinced this was the only way I would sleep, my priorities returned to my missing car keys. While I don't recall specifics, I remember fighting, and I can only imagine the volatility for me to leave your side. While it wasn't unlike us to fight, I had been suppressing my frustration just below the surface, where it mingled with other resentments. For goodness grief. For goodness grief. Okay, just saying. Once I acknowledged this, I was able to read the paragraph. This is an example of why I have to muse out every silly thing, whether it's a real thing for you guys or not, just so that my brain will release something, and I won't release it until I acknowledge it. The only other things that I could possibly pick apart as to why or what, I can't even explain to you how my brain works. Cannot do it. Sorry. Don't ask me. I have nothing. The only other thing I was observing was not direct. Not like typically an echo is either a similar sound, words with a similar sound, or certain combinations of letters, close proximity, or a specific entire word or entire phrase repeated more than once in a paragraph or chapter. In this case, we have a couple of things that I don't think are wrong per se. But while I was getting hung up on the word tiredness, which I was like, this is stupid. I don't need to mention this. This is stupid. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't need to mention this. What did I read this paragraph 4 times? And on the 4th time, I finally give up. Or no, the 3rd time, I finally give up. Swap out the 4th time. I swap out the word for something that my brain would accept. And then I'm able to read the whole paragraph. That is just so bizarre. But while I'm trying to figure it out, I'm also trying to look for other explanations. I'm like, no, I have decided, no, I'm not going to acknowledge this. I'm going to look somewhere else for the problem. And it just wouldn't let me read it. It just would not let me read it. The only other thing I could possibly muse out was, is there a lot of me and my, or a phrase? Car keys, but we're talking about an item. So we're talking about a noun. But I was trying to rationalize in my brain, in the background, 3 layers of thought. You've got me reading. You've got me musing over releasing this word because I've decided that I was not going to mention it. And then my subconscious being hung up on it where I had to acknowledge it. And then the 4th layer of my thought, looking for anything else that could be an explanation as to why it was not letting me read. And the only other things that were jumping out at me was my car keys, and my car keys again, only separated by the word missing. And we have 4 my's, okay? But I feel like if we were to go in other places and look around, we might find that. We have 1, 2, 3. I mean, this is a memoir. It's in first person. There's 4 my's right there, and I had no problem reading that. So this is a sidebar of me absolutely being frustrated with my own brain, refusing to let go so that I could read because I did not acknowledge what it wanted to say. And instead, now I'm making a big old mess. There we go. I'm going to delete all my little notes over here. We're going to... I'm so mad. Okay. I'm not going to read this paragraph a 5th time. I'm just going to acknowledge that I changed out 1 word and my brain decided it was acceptable after that, and I was able to read it just fine. That's embarrassing. I called for a taxi, leaving you to sleep it off in the nest of blankets we made on the floor. The taxi van driver was a breath of kindness on an otherwise wretched night. Winding through the valley back to the coastline, I complained to him of your carelessness. And not only that, I explained, he is spoiled and selfish. I'm not sure about saying that. And around fishing during the day while I'm at work. Would you believe his parents pay for him to study and all he does is fish and smoke pot? My level of intoxication was more than evident. It's kind of actually funny. It's not, but it kind of is. What are you, like, telling a cab driver this? Yes. Oh my God. This is okay. So I mean, we have to laugh at our old selves. I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. I hope you think it's funny. I'm sorry. I've just been in those moments where you're just not with it and you're just saying whatever comes out. And then you feel like you can just, you have like no interference from your subconscious. You've dulled it. You've drank it to silence. Okay. And you're just letting it all out. Okay. If you find those keys, just get what you need out of the car and call me back. Don't put them in the ignition, he said as I handed over my debit card to cover the fare. Okay, so this is beautiful. I love this. You've shown your level of level of intoxication. I've had a little giggle out of it, which is really nice. It's really nice with the depth and the emotion that surrounds this entire piece. So I think this is a great addition, and you've shown yeah, I'm following this along. I feel like a lot better. I feel like you've achieved your clarity goals so far. We're going to keep going because I know that toward the end I had gotten confused too. So we're going to keep going. By cell phone light, I stumbled around near where we'd been about 4 hours before. I suspect I was at it for some time with the rhythmic crashing of the waves dominating the soundscape. When your cell went straight to voicemail, I dialed your best friend Devin, hoping he'd be around and even have some to counter the tequila. Turning my attention from the keys, I started to look for a large rock in the soft sand. I carried a cherished rose quartz stone in my purse back then, a little smaller than my palm. With healing properties of love and nourishment, my friend from work gifted it to me a few years before. When stressed, I would rub my thumb over it, and there on the stretch of pavement along the coast, I imagined it would resolve my situation. As if any part of me being at the beach up until this point was a good idea, pummeling the rose quartz into the back car window was by far my best idea yet. I was sincerely surprised when the crystal ricocheted right off the window and back at me, chipping a chunk of opaque pink off the top. Another hour would pass before I managed a larger rock with enough oomph to crack the glass. Encouraged to have a hole busted out at least, I removed my jacket and wrapped my right hand inside. With my makeshift protection, I continued to beat at the window to break away the tiny chunks of glass that rolled off in cubes. Deranged, I fumbled to reach the door handle from the inside and at last opened the door. I expected to find my prescription of Klonopin in the back canvas, Amoeba Records bag on the back seat. Imagine the humbling moment when I realized the prescription wasn't there. It had been in the inner flap of my purse, over my shoulder, the whole night. A secret I vowed to take to my grave. The alcohol had stopped working, exhaustion set in, and my phone battery died. My legs carried me the 400-yard distance to a little motel with bright ocean murals. The young man behind the counter billed my credit card and loaned me a cell phone charger before directing me up cement steps. The evening cold had long penetrated my flesh. Inside the cramped motel room, steam billowed as I filled the tub, my hands fumbling with the buttons of my thin red jacket. Lowering myself in, water rippled around me, streaks with ribbons of red. They swirled like some grotesque art. My breath caught in my throat. Against the darkening liquid, my pale arms were slashed with cuts. Some deep, others just scratches, but all silently leaking into the bath. Trembling, I lifted my hands to inspect. I was horrified to look down into the red water, red water with swirls of bright blood. My blood. In the cold, drunken chaos, I had neglected to notice all the angular cuts in my hand and arm. At this moment, soaking in my blood, my breath grew shallow. I was overcome by a quiet fear, a magnificent, dark, twisted fear of myself. Generic white towels and white sheets absorbed evidence of my irrational actions through the early morning hours. The towels lumped up on the bathroom floor were a source of shame. Not long after I fell asleep, the sun rose to start the day, and my phone coaxed me to consciousness with incoming calls from both you and Devin. You caught a taxi to me, but I had to pay the fare. After settling up, I went into the lobby to return the charger. You know, it's standard protocol that if someone checks in after 2 a.m. in your state, we would call the police, he said, glancing into my eyes. I didn't report you, but obviously you're in some kind of trouble. Thanks for the charger and everything, I managed, my eyes no longer meeting his stare. My embarrassment and shame were suffocating. I called my dad, wishing I had prior to busting out my window. He came over with my spare key and a metaphorical Santa sack of disappointments. You drove my car back to your parents' house. At some point, you cleared the rest of the window from the door frame and vacuumed the back seat. I slept in your flannel sheets most of the day, shaky from exhaustion and alcohol poisoning. In moments of laying awake, I plotted my story for work the next day. A web of lies. Someone broke into my car while we were on the beach. Can you believe the crime that's hitting our small town? I would expect this in San Francisco, I said. But here? Okay. These are... All right, so I think we want me to look at these questions. Am I right? Hang on, let me just check your notes. Okay. It looks like you've got a section of questions. Okay, so introspective, like, questions for me. And I honestly kind of feel like we could do this all in one video. I mean, I've done 3-hour videos before, so I'm inclined to just keep going. So I think we're going to do that. And now, I apologize if you wanted them, if I do this and you wanted them separated for reference points, you might. I guess you don't care how long they are. So, and I've already run the first 2 together. Okay, I'll stop here and then start a new video for the musings in case you needed this separate for like reference points. That way you don't have to flip through an entire video to find the part that you need to get to. Okay. All right, guys. I will see you guys next time on Mystery Red Reads.